So, Carl, did you want to briefly just recap with timeline, or should we jump right into the year of the horse? What
I
would you
don't know
like
what
to
the
do?
year of the horse is, but
Oh, that's the lunar celebration. That's
oh, okay.
the title
Yeah,
that.
we can actually. I would say we should pick up from where we left off because I think the last two ones we recapped and we never got to make any progress.
Yeah, if you don't mind, can you just briefly
Yeah, I
summarize
can give a short. Yeah, uh,
and yeah.
yeah. Let me just pull it up here. Um, and by the way, these online tools are of course subject to change. There's with these types of developments, sometimes you might find an error. And so I've tried to, as much as possible, that's why I haven't really publicly released them, is as much as possible try to go through it to make sure everything's accurate. But just
So
want
it's
to
like
put out that,
it's like a test net.
yeah, yeah, you could say that. So, but I mean, this is all sound. It's just, it's really the other one that is making sure everything
All right. So
is
please
matching.
just summarize for us, what is the goal of what are we trying to do right now?
Okay. So this tool, this is the CCC. Again, this is just the math that was used to calculate Passover in any given year.
So it's the celestial clock calendar.
Hmm.
And why would we want to know the Passover for every given year? How would that help us if you don't?
Because when we know the Passover for any given year,
Uh huh.
that allows us to map out the rest of the year and align our Gregorian calendar with the Hebrew calendar.
I see. So it's almost like when we know where Solomon's death is, we can use it as a data point that's fixed to go
Yeah.
forward and back because it's like a stable point.
Yeah, it's an anchor. It serves as an anchor date for every year. So if you know Passover in any given year, if you Passover is always Nisan 14. If you know the Gregorian date for Passover for any given year, that allows you to figure out what the rest of the year is. So when
And
you see Bible,
The Gregorian proleptic calendar is the accurate date that we can build upon because that would be then in sync with the timeline.
right? And when I say Gregorian, I don't mean because the Gregorian calendar, obviously, yeah, it's definitely a proleptic one, but it's even different in that it's the Gregorian calendar that's accurately tied to the sun. Because our Gregorian calendar only uses 365. We make a leap year adjustments, but they're not perfect, right? I think like every 400 years we skip a few leap years. Well, when you use the exact 365.2422, you don't have to add in February 29th. You'll notice on our calendar on this tool, you're never going to see a February 29th because there's no need ever to insert the February 29th because we're using exact math. We only insert a February 29th if we're doing 365 years, right?
And what are we using? 365.2422?
Right. That 0.2422 takes care of the leap years. You know
Gotcha.
what I mean?
So it's like pure without any need to make
Exactly.
adjustments.
It's
But
it's
what
the
about
perfect.
but what about that thing I heard that every 3,000 years you have to add um
That's still tied with this because even when we insert a leap year,
mhm
we're adding an extra 40. When we add a February 29th every 4 years,
mhm
we add a full day, but we really should only be adding 23 hours and 15 minutes if we're
okay.
going to be extremely precise, which means every year, every 4 years, we're actually adding an extra 45 minutes
Hmm.
to the calendar. Um, and so,
You rack up enough minutes and you hit that 3,000 milestone. And I'm not being accurate. I'm sure it's more than or more accurate than that, but you have to make an adjustment for that.
yeah, but when you use the precise math, you never have to make an adjustment.
Okay. Got it.
This is why we're using this, is because every calendar is trying to keep up with this.
Got it.
So it makes sense to go to the source, the celestial clocks that are in the sky. So that's what this tool is. So
Did you tell
that's
NASA you have this?
I'm sure they have something like this, but I don't think they're interested in this tool is really now when we say Gregorian calendar, it's not like we're taking our modern Gregorian calendar and then just kind of back walking it backwards in time because
Mhm.
that would still have errors because our modern Gregorian calendar still relies on inserting leap years. So we're
Right.
using a proleptic Gregorian calendar that's accurately tied to the sun, the Earth going around the sun, the solar calendar. So when we say if I go back way back to like um, creation, for example, or let me just go to the year Enos was born. I think it was 7106 BC. Oops, I believe he was born in
That's a
71.
17. That's a 17 you got there, sir.
Yeah, you're right. 7106. So Passover in that year would have occurred on March 22nd. Now, if we try to walk our Gregorian calendar, that doesn't mean we're going to land on this date because that Gregorian calendar, that's a long time to backtrack. I mean, that's 7,138 years from the cross to go back towards Enoch's birth. So we're basically just tying our Gregorian calendar to it's a more accurate Gregorian calendar, if you think about it. It's a proleptic one, but it's a more accurate one because it doesn't involve like leap years or anything like that. So when I say Gregorian date, I'm trying to be very clear. Why do we use the Gregorian calendar? Well, we understand it's just a label. You know, these months and days, it's just a labeling system.
Okay.
So we can understand it. But and the same thing with the Hebrew calendar, you know. We don't use the modern Jewish calendar because they don't follow time accurately. They add in their postponement rules. So again, we're using the Jewish calendar based off the celestial, like the moon phases, without adding extra months. Like they add a dar two, you know, to their calendar. We don't do that on that tool. So just to clarify all of that, that I think is helpful to understand. So when
Got
we
it.
have these Jewish months, you won't see an Adar two because they insert an Adar two.
And what month
Adar
is
is like
Adar? Is that the first month of the year?
no, Adar is their like December.
There's December.
Yeah,
And why would they
Adar's
put that in? That just for their own convenience when they wanted to have?
they insert a whole month um to try to keep up with time. So they
Gotcha.
don't follow the same every 4 years rule, I don't think. They actually insert a whole month when
So
it
they
comes
have
to
their
month.
own. They have their own way of
Right.
correct. Okay.
Course correcting. But you know, like every calendar, like we just explained with the Gregorian, it is one of the most accurate calendars, but even still, after 3,000 years, it'll fall short of a day again.
Right.
So it's like and we're never going to reach that. And I don't think any generation now cares about that because that would be way past their lifetime. Uh, and we're not going to make it that far. But just that's the point of it is that, but this is why we're using precise math.
Can everyone see the screen well? Please give me a thumbs up. I don't know if you can see. All right, got a couple. Thank you.
Okay. So we last left off with 1407 BC. We saw that there's an 8-day difference in the Passover date from 1447 to 1407, and how Mr. Camping noticed in the Bible that there is an 8-day event that took place in Joshua where they lodged at Jordan, then on the 22nd, then on
Do
the
you mind
25th.
repeating that one more time for the audience? And I that kind of went out one ear and that went in
Yeah.
one ear and out the other. Can you just repeat that again, please?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With-
Let me let me do this. It's a little easier. So the year is 1447 BC, and the month is March. This is a calendar compare tool, so you can see you can just line up the two calendars and kind of match them together. So these are two different years.
Okay.
This is 1407. That's when they crossed over the Jordan, and this is 1447. That's the Exodus.
Right.
So if you scroll down, you can see the difference. See how it calculates. The yellow is Passover. So in this year, 1447, it calculates it on the 21st and the 22nd.
Gotcha.
And in this year, it calculates it on the 29th and the 30th.
Right.
Right. But why? This is Nissan 1314. It's the same day here. It's Nissan 1314. You see?
Yep.
It's this date is the equivalent. The 21st is the equivalent to March 29th in 1407. Hebrew when we talk about the Hebrew calendar, because
Right.
here you
And the reason why this offset is because of the way of the moon phases, or is that correct?
yeah, because
Between the
so
sun and the moon.
the lunar calendar, it's a perfect match, right? Nissan 1314, Nissan 1314. It's an exact 40 years from when they celebrated Passover in 1447 to when they celebrated Passover in 1407. However, what's different is the solar calendar. That's why it's on March 21st here, but over here it's on March 29th. That's an 8-day lag. You see that?
Right.
So what Mr. Camping thought is, well, let me see, because God in the Bible, for some reason, he highlights that they left Egypt the next day. So that would have been Nisan. This would have finished Passover Nisan 14, and Nisan 15 is the day that they left Egypt. It says that in Numbers chapter 33. It says they went out on the morrow of Passover, and it said it was the 15th. So Mr. Camping's like, well, let me see why God's highlighting this date of the 22nd. And so he jumped exactly from March 22nd, exactly 40 years later, to this March 22nd, right? He's thinking maybe God is trying to highlight something with the solar calendar. See, we were just dealing with the lunar calendar here, but now the focus is going to be on the solar calendar. So March 22nd, exactly 40 years later, looking at the solar calendar, we're on March 22nd. And then he wanted to see, okay, let's see if this lines up. And sure enough, there's 8 days difference. So if they lodged at Jordan right here, that's the first day, second day, third day. The Bible says they crossed over Jordan on the 10th of the first month. Where here we have an alignment because it's March 25th and it happens to be the 10th of the month. So far it's working out. And then 4 days later, they celebrate Passover on Nisan 14, which means if Mr. Camping's hunch is correct, we go from March 22nd all the way to March 22nd of 1407, and they lodge at Jordan, and the whole event takes 8 days to celebrate the next Passover, then it should land on the 29th because the calculator has Passover on March 29th. And so, sure enough, when you do that, 8 days later, you land on March 29th.
So
That wouldn't, yeah.
So are you saying that the 8 day difference that was not due to the calendar difference, but due to the sojourn? What would be the difference for this? Would that just be the time that's lost or tracked between the sun and the moon, or is the Bible giving us reasons why the Passover was 8 days later?
Well, yeah, it's just highlighting the fact that God uses both the lunar calendar in the Bible, but also the solar calendar.
Gotcha.
You don't ever hear about the solar calendar because you just hear about like the moon, like the new moon in the Bible, feast days. It's all tied to the lunar, but you never hear God say, and this happened on this solar day, right?
Right. The
But
only thing
yet that it,
I'm feeling a little bit lost with is that the information that God gave us about their sojourn, is that because of any delays or they're traveling, why it's off by 8 days? Or is God giving us that information so we can know that the timing is accurate?
yeah, he's just showing that look, the solar calendar is also weaved in the Bible, I
Okay,
believe, through this.
gotcha.
Because if we, for example, remember how we made a shift? We talked about the shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the shift was 2 days backwards in this year, it was a 2 day shift because you start with the 31st every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 days before the 31st is March 29th. If we had made the shift 2 days later, that would be March 31st. I know, sorry, after the 31st, that would be April 2nd. So then that would have Passover on April 2nd, which is down here. Well, I don't have it showing, right?
And it would have been out of sync.
It would have been out of sync because by the time we did time, if we went from March 22nd in this year and got all the way to March 22nd here, and we counted 8 days later,
Oh,
one,
so
two,
God kind
three,
of
four, 5, 6, 7, 8.
wow. So God is hiding the fact that there is this offset by giving some of this sojourn language just to
Exactly.
say, hey, I'm putting this information in here for you to know that we landed on this date. And it's like hidden, right?
Yeah, he's basically telling you that they left
Yeah.
on March 22nd, March 22nd. So in other
So it's
words, he's
hidden
showing in the lunar
confirmation.
calendar.
Right. It's hidden confirmation to let you know that if you do come across this, it's landing specifically on the dates that are being mentioned. And here's why.
Exactly. And there's alignment. The Bible's showing that. Like, for example, okay, the lunar calendar is in the Bible, right? Nisan 14, Passover's here. We use the math to calculate it here. 40 years later to the day, it's Nisan 14 over here, 13, 14. It's the exact match. That's the lunar. Let's set aside the lunar. Let's now focus on the solar.
Wow.
From
That's
here,
interesting. So, Carl, how did you find out that this particular story would have given you the confirmation you were looking for to let you know the offset actually proved it right? Is it because Mr. Camping first was on the hunch there and then you're just confirming?
yeah, well, all you have to do is let's say we didn't even read the Joshua account. Let's just say we just wanted to see when Passover was for both years. So we don't have we let's just say we haven't read the Joshua account and we come to the year 1447 and the math is telling us Passover is on March 21st. But then we go to 1407 and the math is telling us Passover lands on March 29th. Well, that's an 8-day difference. So, and not in the Hebrew calendar, but in the solar calendar. The Hebrew calendar, it's the exact same day. It's Nisan 14, the lunar calendar. But with the solar calendar, there's an 8-day difference.
Mm.
So then he goes to the Joshua account and he sees, okay, could God be hiding clues to let us know about the solar calendar in this account? And so he took the Bible says in Numbers, let me pull that up because this is very important information. Numbers 33. And they departed from Ramesses in the first month, that's Nisan, on the 15th day of the first month, on the morrow after the Passover. So God's being very specific. It's the 15th day, it's the morrow after Passover. So the morrow, if Passover is here, which spans both these days, well, the morrow after Passover begins on the 15th. So it'd be part of this day, right? It's always 2 Gregorian days, but you start here because that's when the 15th starts. So God's highlighting that this was the day of the Exodus, March 22nd. This is a very significant day. It's Nisan 15, but it's March 22nd, the day that they left Egypt. So then if you go exactly 40 years later to this day, you're going to land right here on March 22nd of 1407 BC. And so then he noticed, oh, there's an 8-day journey from when they lodged at Jordan here to when they crossed over the Jordan River on the 25th, which the Bible says was Nisan 10. And then 4 days later, they celebrate Passover on Nisan
Yeah,
14.
so God is like telling you, look, it's not the 22nd because we're still traveling, we're still doing things. So it's like God is giving you more information for you to know like, hey, this offset is in the calendar, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's really showing that that the Bible has a solar calendar in it as well, not just the lunar. It's see that a lot of people might think, oh, there's just a lunar calendar in the Bible because we have all these lunar dates like Nisan and Adar. Those are all lunar based dates. So, and also this was used to understand, if we go back to 33 AD, Mr. Camping had arrived at May 22nd for Pentecost, which is right here.
Mhm.
And maybe we can go over this because this was brought up. This has been brought up, this topic. But he had May 22nd. Well, that's a solar date. The Hebrew date was Sivan 6/7. That's their third month, the 6th day of the month, right? But that happened on using our solar calendar. That Pentecost happened on May 22nd. And God basically this is letting us know that God foreknew that around 2011, that era, we would be using a solar calendar, right? He knew that the elect living at the time of the end wouldn't be following a lunar calendar because that's a Jewish calendar, right?
Hmm.
And so this is why we come up with dates like May 21 for Judgment Day. We don't say what the Hebrew date is, we say what the Gregorian date is, you know. So this is why God wove the solar calendar because he foreknew we would use a solar calendar.
What's even more amazing is that God hides information and when he's ready, he can reveal it. And you won't find it unless
Oh
God
yeah.
shows it to you.
No, not at all. Yeah.
It's not like you're going to stumble across something that God doesn't want you to see because we're
No,
never going to see it. We're never going to see it.
no, yeah. Like
No.
this stuff was anytime I learn about this stuff, I'm always reading Mr. Camping's material. I'm not finding it myself. So God really blessed him with this understanding. But you see here, we can go over this because someone might ask, how did we arrive at like the date of Pentecost? this will be in the timeline video, but we know we have a starting date of when Christ died on the cross, which was April 1st, Friday.
Mhm.
And so Christ was in the garden on the 31st. That would have been the beginning,
Oh,
the evening portion. You have this on 15. So this is where Passover is calculated. And it works. I mean, this is our anchor date for Passover because we know Christ died on Friday. We know it's the year, April 13th, and we know it's in the springtime. So there's several reasons why we know that Christ died on this day. So the Bible lets us know in Leviticus how to calculate from Passover all the way to Pentecost. And so it says, let me see. Yeah. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. So the Old Testament Sabbath was Saturday, right? So Christ hung on the cross on
I
Friday.
thought the Old Testament Sabbath was Friday evening into Saturday evening.
It
Um,
is, yeah, part of Friday evening and part of Saturday.
okay,
Yeah, so it spans both of these days. Yeah.
right.
However, um, it says, and ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath.
So that would be Saturday, 6 p.m.
Yeah, so it would be part of this day and part of Sunday, right?
Gotcha.
But you just count both of these if you want to do it that way.
Right,
But this is where you start to count. It's the Sabbath after. So it says, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. Well, it's not talking about Sunday the Sabbath because they observe Saturday the Sabbath.
right.
So the morrow after Saturday the Sabbath would be Sunday the Sabbath. You start the count there, and if you go, you can count. This is exactly 28 days. You just count 7, 14, 21, 28, just like that. That gives you 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. So the 50th day is Sunday, May 22nd. That would be Pentecost right there. And then to confirm that, the Bible says, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. So even unto the morrow, after the 7th Sabbath, shall you number 50 days. So the 50th day will be after the 7th Sabbath. If you go back to the calendar, this is the first Sabbath. No, I gotta scroll up right here. So the first Sabbath would be, well, we start here. The Bible says to start the count here. So the first Sabbath would be the 9th. That's the first Saturday in view. So we just counted our 50 days out. Now we got to count our 7 Sabbaths. So you have the 9th, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have 5, 6, 7. The 7th Sabbath is May, which is the 49th day, right? And then the Bible says, and even the morrow after the Sabbath shall ye number 50 days. So if we got to our 7th Sabbath, this is the 7th Sabbath on the calendar. That's 49 days. The morrow is the 50th day. So we have a match. So both way of counting gets us to the 22nd, Sunday the 22nd. And this day, so notice this is Savan 6. If we go into the future to the year 1988, remember how Mr. Camping taught the end of the church age was on May 21. That also is on Savan 6, May
Mm.
21. It's the same exact Hebrew day, but it's the day before Pentecost. It's the same Hebrew day, but the Gregorian date is May 21 because Pentecost began the church age. So the judgment on the churches ended right before Pentecost could begin. So that was signaling judgment on the churches on May 21, 1988.
It's quite evident that those cannot gainsay nor resist this because it's very hard for them to even approach this level of Bible comparison. So we should really be thanking God that after, Mr. Camping passed away, even though he lost his faculties, a lot of the work that God allowed him to understand is bearing true with increased scrutiny and more tools that we have. With more tools
Mhm.
at our disposal, we're seeing that the math is still working out.
Yeah, he did all this without having any of these tools. So this makes it easier for us to kind of see. Um, Everyone's a little different. Me personally, I'm a visual learner, so I like to visually see what I'm looking at. Some
Right,
people, they like numbers and they like spreadsheets, and they work better that way. It just depends on
right.
how God made them. But yeah, if we have enough time, we can just. I think we can make it past where we last left off with.
Wait a minute. That was the review?
No, 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 that wasn't the review. That was
Cooked.
us.
I'm cooked, man. That was the review. So I'm really thankful. I think that's enough. You We're not getting a lot of response from the audience. I think they're cooked too, but they
Well,
won't even tell me
you
now.
can ask them if they have any
How are you
questions.
guys? How are you all doing? Give me a thumbs up if you'd like to continue more, and give me a thumbs down if this is where we need to stop and just kind of do it one more time. Because when it comes to the Bible, when Mr. Camping would do these studies, he would recap over and over again, and I think that's the best way to learn until we can articulate what Carl is saying, and we can say it just as capably, if that's a word I keep using. So, Carl, if you don't mind, how about we run through this again? Can you present a little bit of a summary of this new information, and we go back again and just recapping this, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, we can keep going back. Yeah. I
Yeah,
just
break forth, because that's how Mr. Camping would do it. He would do like a Bible study. He would kind of, present like a new thing and then recap over again. So, what would be the furtherance of this?
well, I wanted to show you this too. It says this confirms we were right about our March 22nd because we had oh, this is AD. I gotta go to BC. I
Hmm.
knew something looked off there. Remember how we were comparing both calendars since 1407? Yep, 1407. So we made it to, they lodged at Jordan. The Bible says they stayed for 3 days. So that's one, two, three. And then they cross over on the morrow after the third day. And that's Nisan 9:10. Well, look what we read here. And the people came out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. So as soon as they cross over Jordan, God's letting us know the date that that happened.
Well,
Well,
could
here
you
you
just
go.
repeat that one more time? I'm sure some of the folks in the audience aren't saying it, but I think that might have gone over their head because it certainly went over mine. Can you just repeat that again?
Yeah. So this is the day they actually cross over the Jordan.
So this is
This
Israel
is
in 1407 BC.
right. So we were the Bible spoke of Joshua left the encampment. They left their last they were in the wilderness for 40 years. They left their last encampment and arrived at Jordan.
Right.
And the
They're
Bible
getting ready
says,
to cross. They're getting ready to cross, right?
yeah, but it lets us know that before they crossed, they actually lodged there for 3 nights. So
Okay.
they got there on this night. That's night one, night two, night three. Mr. Campion had pointed out when it says at the end of after 3 days should be is better understood as at the end of 3 days.
Okay.
You count inclusive. You count the first day they arrive, the second day, the third day. Well, it's on this day. This is the 24th, where Joshua says, "Prepare yourself for tomorrow. You're going to cross over."
Gotcha.
And so that happens here on the 25th. And so this is our hunch that we're on the right track. Well, look how it lines up with the Bible. Look, this is a clue we're on the right track. It says, and the people came up out of Jordan. So we just said, use based off our hunch, we just said this was the day that they crossed over Jordan.
Hmm.
We have March 25th. Well, this is our Hebrew date, Nisan 9/10.
Hmm.
Let's see what the Bible says. And the people came out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. What is the first month? It's Nisan. What is the 10th day? It's the 10th day of the first month. You can see that right here. Nisan is the first month, and we're on the 10th day. The latter part of this day starts the 10th day. So in other words, the Bible is confirming, yes, keep going. You're on the right track. You made it to the 10th day. And then what do we know based off what the Bible says about Passover? It always occurs on the 14th.
Hmm.
So you're at the 10th day, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the 14th is the day they celebrate Passover, and that's on March 29th. That's the day that our math calculated for Passover. So that means our math is correct because it's lining up with the Bible.
Wow.
So so then Passover ends after the 29th and the 30th. So at the end of the 30th, we get to the 31st. That starts part of 15's here, part of 15's here. So that's March 31st. Well, look what it says here. Let's see. Okay. So it says, and they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover. So if the Passover is the 14th, that means they ate of the old corn of the land on the 15th. Unleavened cakes and parched corn in the self same day. So that's interesting because that would be the morrow would be part of this day, but it would be March 31st, right
Right.
here, part of this day.
Right.
So they eat the Passover, and then there's no indication. Okay, and then there's one more day, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten the old corn of the land. Well, they just said that they ate the old corn of the land the day after Passover. So that's we just saw that's March 31st.
Mhm.
So here it says the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten the old corn of the land. So that would be the very next day. So after they had eaten the old corn of the land, that would begin the end part of this day and the part of April 1st. So now we're on April 1st right here. So we can map out that timing to April 1st. And then if you keep going, it's interesting because this is when Joshua runs into the man who had a sword drawn, and that was Christ. He's captain of the host of Jehovah.
Mm-hmm.
And so Joshua looses his feet or his shoes off of his feet. And then we go to the next chapter. There's no indication of a passage of time, right? It just seems like he's getting right into it, where it says, Now Jericho was straitly shut up because the children of Israel, none went out, none came in. So they're about ready to
Siege.
uh,
They've sieged.
siege, yeah. And so they encompass the city, and then God tells them what they should do. It says, thou shalt do for 6 days. So they're going to go around. So we're on April 1st. So that means they're going around the city for 6 days. And the
Is that
seven priests shall
inclusive?
burn.
Is that inclusive? Meaning,
I believe if it's the same day where Joshua met the captain of
mhm.
the Lord of Hosts, that would be April 1st.
And
So
because that would mean that when he took off his shoes, that the man who is Christ was giving him that instruction, right?
right, exactly, yeah. So that would have happened on April 1st, that event. And I believe this would have also started the first 6 days they went around the city
Right.
because it doesn't speak about tomorrow after that event. And so inclusive is often the count with these types of things. So if we're right about that, that means this was day one of going around Jericho. This would be day two, day three, day four, day five, day six, which would be our Sunday. That would be the sixth day that they go around. And then the seventh, remember how they go around 7 times?
Yes.
Well, that happens on April 7th, which is interesting because in our Gregorian calendar, it happens to be the seventh of that day, but that would be the seventh time around the city. So we got to April 7th as far as so yeah, if you scroll down, you shall come past the city, right? And then
Mhm. You're going to blow the trumpet.
yep, the second day they compassed the city once, they returned to the camp. So did they 6 days, so April 6th.
Mhm.
And it came to pass on the seventh day that they rose early about the dawning of the day. So they're getting right to work, right? As
Right.
soon as the day
They had
starts,
to because they had to do 7 times.
yeah. So that's a lot of, yeah. So they compass the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day, they compassed the city 7 times. So that would be, if we're correct about this, that would have been April 7th that they went around 7 times, which is interesting. So then if you keep following it through, and it came to pass at the seventh time when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for Jehovah hath given you the city. And then he talks about, um, anyone who's this is with Rahab the harlot, making sure she's secure.
Right.
And then when we scroll down, let's see, this talks about the spies, that went in
Mhm.
to secure. Okay, so the city was burnt with fire, and Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive in her father's house, and she dwelleth in Israel even unto this day. And then Joshua says, Cursed be the man before Jehovah that riseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. And then if we go to the very next chapter, see, but the children of Israel committed a trespass in the accursed thing. So that's the whole account with Achan.
Oh, so Achan took of the accursed thing by the destruction of Jericho. He took out
Right.
a Shinar, a Babylonian garden, and a wedge of gold, right?
Right. And I believe that would have been this day, the same day, the seventh, when the walls fell, because
Mm.
there's no passage of time And so at the same time, Joshua is sending men to Jericho. So Joshua sent men from Jericho, sorry, to Ai, from Jericho to Ai
Right.
to go fight. But he only sent some of the men, right?
Right.
And what happened is they started to be smitten before their enemies. Remember that account?
Because they took of the accursed thing, which is interesting because in the previous chapter he talked about the whole city being accursed. So there's
Yeah.
this is a link. This is a link. Yeah.
hmm Yep. And so 30 and 6 men, they chase them. So, and then this is when Joshua rents his clothes. He falls upon the earth. And
Hmm.
notice it says before the ark of Jehovah until the eventide.
Hmm.
So the eventide of April 7th, if we're still on that same day, that would be the eventide, right? And then it's the next day that they actually stone. I don't know if you know this, it's the very next day that Achan is destroyed. Because look what it says. Um, before
So
their
do
enemy.
you believe that when the walls of Jericho came down and Achan took of the Babylonianish garment and the wedge of gold, that same day 36 men fell? Or wouldn't it have been the next day from
I think it was that same day because the city is taken, and that would have been because God has given us all these time references, and there's nothing that indicates a passage of time until here
Hmm,
where it mentions eventide. But look what it says here: up, sanctify the people, and say, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow. So now we have another time reference right here. For
gotcha.
thus saith Jehovah God of Israel, there is an accursed thing in the midst of thee, O Israel, that canst O Israel, thou canst not stand before thine enemies until you take away the accursed thing from among you.
Got it.
So notice that they're going to figure it out tomorrow. So in the morning, so tomorrow would be
The
the
Tuesday.
8th, I believe, Tuesday. So this would be in the morning. In the morning, therefore, you shall be brought according to your tribes. So this is when they're trying to figure out who is responsible for this,
Like
right?
casting a lot, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And so then it says, so Joshua rose up early in the morning and brought Israel by their tribe. So this is happening early in the morning that day.
Tuesday. Yep.
Right? And finally they get to Achan, right?
Hmm.
He says, "Give God the glory, make confession what you've done." And then he says, "I have sinned." And then he talks about the Babylonian garment. And if we keep going down, the wedge. Okay. Joshua said, "Why hast thou troubled us? Jehovah shall trouble thee this day." And all Israel stoned him with stones and burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. Notice he says this day. So
Right.
that's letting us know that I believe that would be April 8th, where this is the morrow after they find out. And so he's stoned on the
Right.
eighth day. But that's kind of interesting because you have the eighth day. That's in the view. And then they raised over him a great heap of stones unto this day. So Jehovah turned from the fierceness of his anger. Now, if you go to the next chapter, I just want to kind of show you where there's basically a dead end, but where it's leading to what date. And so Jehovah said unto Joshua, fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee. Arise, go up to Ai. See, I have given into thy hand the king of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land.
So based on what we're understanding, the Monday in which they did the 7 times and took the city of Jericho,
hmm
the day after, Tuesday, they started to lose the battle as
Well,
it
no,
became
the
even time.
seventh. No, the seventh is when they're losing the battle.
Okay,
So in
even
other words, it appears they went right from Jericho, because remember, they're still at Jericho, but Joshua sends men to Ai. So they're
gotcha,
not all like traveling, but
gotcha. This is
they
a
bring back a
small
report.
team, right?
Right, and that's why it says in the eventide, Joshua, I think he rent his clothes. It says in the eventide, so that would have been the evening portion of the day.
Gotcha. And then he said, tomorrow we're going to figure out, who's
Right, so that
among
would
us.
be the eighth. And that same day, it says Achan was killed. It says on this day, God shall trouble you.
That's right.
So that would happen on April 8th. But let's see where we can lead, where this will continue to go if we're on the right track. And so they're going back up to AI. This would, I believe, would still be on the 8th, right? Because
Hmm.
this is they remember they found him in the morning time and they stoned him.
Right.
There's no indication, I think, in this last chapter. See, the Lord shall trouble thee this day. So there's no indication that the day has passed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when you get to the next chapter, it just seems like they're going right back to business, right? So they're going back to AI, right? Um, Okay.
And it says by night in verse 3. So Joshua arose and all the people of war.
Yep. Out 30,000 men of valor and sent them away by night. So if we understand that correctly, that would be the night of April 8th. And he commanded them, saying, Behold, you shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city. I and all the people who are with me will approach into the city, and it shall come to pass when they come out against us, as at the first, that we will flee from before thee. For they will come out after us till we have drawn them from the city, for they will say, They flee before us, as at the first, therefore we will flee before them. Then shall you rise up from the ambush and seize upon the city, for Jehovah your God will deliver it into your hands. Um, let's see. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. So he's staying that night among the people, and Joshua rose up early in the morning.
So that would
So
be Wednesday morning.
yes, I believe that would be April 9th, because this is the same night where
Right.
he's lodging that night. So April 9th, I believe, would be that morning here, and numbered the people, and all the people, and even the people of war that were with them, right? Okay, took about 5,000 men.
When they had the second
Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. So,
Wednesday night.
yep, I believe that's still the same night. So Joshua lodged that night among the people. No, no, no. So this is April 9th. Yeah, so this would be Wednesday. Yeah, because this is the April 9th when he rose up early.
Right.
So then we have another reference. Joshua went that night in the midst of the valley. So that would be
Wednesday.
the 10th. That would be Wednesday. Yeah, the night of Wednesday.
Right. Into the 10th. Yeah.
Right, into the 10th. And it came to pass when the king of Ai saw it, they hasted and rose up early, and the men of the city went out against Israel to battle. So see how they're rising up early. That's the night, April 9th. I believe they're rising up early on the 10th,
Right.
right? So far we've made it to April 10th, and Joshua and all Israel made it as if they were beaten before them and fled.
So Thursday morning they're fleeing. Is that correct? Is that how you're seeing it or no?
It appears that because it says that because he lodged there all the
Unless they
night.
arose in the night, unless spiritually speaking, when they rose up early, it doesn't say early in the morning. It might mean that they rose up early that night.
Yeah, that's possible. Rose up early. So if we're still on the 9th, let's see.
That's a possibility.
Joshua,
I'm not saying,
yeah, well, no, it is. Yeah. So let's consider that. So Joshua went that night in the midst of the valley. That's the 9th. And let's
and when
just
the
see where
king
this takes us.
saw that they, went to bed that night, he rose up.
Yeah. So let's look for another time reference. And they went to Ai, stretch out the spear. Let's see. And then the men of Ai looked behind them, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended up to heaven, and they had no power to flee this way or that way. And the others issued out of the city, brought him to Joshua.
And Joshua burnt Ai and made it an
Mhm.
heap forever, even a desolation. And the king of, oh, here it is, verse 29.
Hmm.
And the
Oh
king of
yeah.
Ai he hanged on a tree until eventide.
So that has to be the next day. But
Exactly.
when it says they rose up early, yeah. So I think that's a clue. So this
Right.
would be the evening tide of April 10th.
That's
So
right.
they
So
rose up.
Thursday evening, he was hung by that evening.
Yeah, if we're on the right track with this. As soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree
That
and
sounds
cast it at the entering of the gate that remaineth unto this day. So this is April 10th, if we understand this correctly.
right.
Uh, let's see. Spare the ark. Half of them, okay. And afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessings and cursings according to all that is written in the book of the law. There is not a word of all that Moses commanded which Joshua read not before all the congregation of Israel, with the women and the little ones and the strangers that were conversant among them. So a lot is taking place. It seems like it's really compressed. The events is, I mean, they're taking Jericho, they've taken AI,
Hmm.
all within, I think, a 10-day window. So, and it came to pass. So this I wasn't sure. Yeah, I think this is where it gets a little more trickier. It says, and it came to pass when all the kings which were on this side Jordan, in the hills and in the valleys, and in all the coasts of the great sea, over against Lebanon, the Hittites and the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard thereof. Then they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. And when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done unto Jericho and to Ai, they did work they did work willily,
Mhm.
and went and made as they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses, and wine bottles old, rent and bound up. So this is when the men of the Gibeonites come and pretend like they come from afar. And they went to Joshua unto the camp at Gilgal. So Joshua is still at Gilgal here, and said unto him, We come from a far country, now therefore make ye a league with us.
Would this be Friday morning?
Well, they hung them on this evening, right? On the 10th.
Took it down, yeah.
So, so if we don't really have a time reference yet, but it just says and it came to pass. So if we wanted to play it out and let's see, okay, that could that be Friday the 11th
Could it
when
infer
that
that they
happened?
missed it? Yeah.
Because God does give us more time references. So then it says, let's see. So they found out that they were near, right?
Hmm.
So then the two kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, which was at Ashtaroth, take your victuals. Okay, so this is when they take like the moldy bread, right? And let's see. So this is where he made peace. Okay, and it came to pass at the end of 3 days, after they had made a league unto them, that they heard that they were neighbors and that they dwelt among them. So remember, when it says at the end of 3 days,
Hmm.
you count the first day, right?
And that would
And
be the first day being Thursday morning or Friday morning. What would you?
right, well, can't this can't be happening at nighttime, right? Because they're
Right.
coming to them. It seems very unlikely, right? It has to
Exactly.
be the daytime. So the evening time is when those kings were hung on the 10th, right?
Yes.
So if that's the case, so then it'd be the 11th if it's just the next day that this is happening.
Right.
It's not exactly clear, but if it was the 11th, that'd be 11, 12, 13.
Yes.
So this would be so if we're right to continue on down this way, April 13th would be the day that at the end of 3 days, right? Um, see, and they smote them not because of the oath
Right.
that they had mentioned, right?
Hmm.
And let's see. The prince said, "And let them live, but let them be hewers of wood, drawers of water unto all the congregation." Um, Joshua called them and spake unto them, saying, Wherefore have you beguiled us? And notice they're very close by. They're not like a day's journey. Remember that? So it was at the end of 3 days that they found out, oh, these guys are just our neighbors. So
Mm.
it's not like they journeyed far, right, to figure that out. Um, so let's see.
God made them hewers of wood and drawers
Hmm.
of water.
Even unto this day. Now, if you go to the next chapter, if we're still on April 13th, now it came to pass when Adonizan, that king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, and he had done to Jericho her king and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel were among them, that they feared greatly because Gibeon was a great city and one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty. And so let's see, so that now they're asking for help. Come up with me and help me that we may, or yeah, these kings to smite Gibeon, for it hath made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel.
This is still the 3 days after, correct? So now we're on what?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of we stop at the 10th and we're thinking
3 days
possibly that the
after.
next 3 days is
So
a
this is happening on
chronological.
Sunday or Monday? Or where are we up
So
to?
we've stopped here. We've left off on April 3rd. So this would be, but we're just looking for another time reference. And the men of Gibeon sent unto Joshua to the camp. So they're asking for help. Slack not thy hand from thy servants. Come up to us quickly and save us and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites that dwelt in the mountains are gathered together unto us.
I think they asked for 3 days, right? To see what would happen.
Let's see. So Joshua ascended from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and the mighty men of valor. And Jehovah said unto Joshua, Fear them not, for I have delivered them into thine hand. There shall not a man on them stand before thee. Joshua therefore came unto them suddenly, and went up from Gilgal all night.
Hmm.
So here we have a reference point. So if that was the same day, because it does appear like, they're ready to
Right, battle.
on the 13th. And Jehovah discomforted them before Israel and slew them with a great slaughter and chased them. And it came to pass as they fled before Israel. Let's see. Uh, and okay, so this is where it gets kind of interesting. Then spake Joshua to Jehovah in the day when Jehovah delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of
I
Akalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go about a whole day. And there is no day like that, before it or after it, that Jehovah hearkened unto the voice of a man, for Jehovah fought for Israel. So the reason I thought this was interesting is because, if we're understanding this correctly, we're on April 13th, 14th, because that's part of the 29th year is also part of the 29th year. And this is the same date for Passover. If we counted correctly, this is the same date for Passover, in 2033.
mm.
So it'd be interesting if we, I don't know if we have enough information to.
What is the Hebrew correlated date? Because I saw 1314 in your CCC, your celestial clock. What is
It
that?
would be it would
Nisan?
be Nisan 29, so the basically the end of the first month. But that would, but that,
I'm a little lost right now because I thought Passover in 2033 was April 14 to 15.
yeah, it is. But this isn't Passover.
Okay.
Passover already occurred in this year. This is just, we're not talking about the Hebrew date here. We're talking about the same Gregorian date, April 14th,
Hmm.
when this event occurred. If this is true, the 13th and the 14th, if this is true, where the sun stood still on this day,
Hmm.
that's the same day, solar speaking, not lunar, that Passover occurs, April 14th. Because if you look, you go to
Right.
the year 2033. So remember, we're just talking about, it's not that they're both Passover, it's just one, we're just kind of focused on the solar date. So Passover occurs on April 14th. But is it possible that that event happened also on April 14th? That's what I'm wondering. Because it's pretty close, but we have to, you just kind of have to look for more clues and see.
Yeah. That's very interesting how
Yeah.
there's a continual, time progression with that. That was a lot to digest, but I like the way you were able to continually track that down. That's really interesting.
hmm
Really
So,
interesting.
yep.
And
But it's
folks that are
definitely not, it's just something interesting, but it's not like we can know for sure unless we have
right,
like solid
right, you're
pieces of
sharing the
information.
development. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
someone
we
writes.
know, I think we could safely say that up until the 7th when the city falls, and then, the day that Achan is hung. Sorry, I'm in the wrong year, 1407. But I think we can safely make it up to April 7th, right? The day they went around the city, the day that Achan was hung, I think it was the 8th, and then the kings of Ai on the 10th. So, and then see, we don't know if the next chapter, if it's chronological, where it says, and it came to pass. Does that mean the very next day that they found out did the Gibeonites come to them on this day, and then 3 days later, or sorry, on this day, and then 3 days later they find out that they're, you know, not among them, that they're neighbors, they're not coming from a far country. So
Right.
this is where it gets a little more unclear, but I think we can safely make it to April 10th with more certainty.
Yeah, definitely. And that word "and it came to pass," I wonder what spiritually that pattern has to do
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't know if you go to back to the last chapter, we're just kind of left off with
Right.
um
How about we circle back and I think
yeah.
a lot of us here feel a little more confident now. I think a bell is kind of going off, and I think we're starting to get it a little more. So hopefully we can recap this again, and we'll feel a little more confident the next time we do
Yeah,
this.
and just to make this final point with this just shows with this tool that you could possibly do this with other parts of the Bible if you can figure out when Passover occurred and if there's any time references. that might give you clues to map out when certain events took place, like
That's
if any, yeah.
we definitely, and thank you, Carl, for all the time you're putting into this, because a lot of us are not strong in the timeline. We're like we're drooling, we're drooling when we see this, and you're breaking it